The alert came in at 3:41 station time, which meant I was the only one awake on the signals deck of the Pale Accord to hear it. The Pale Accord is not a warship. She carries no rail guns, no point defense batteries, no launch tubes. Her hull plating is the minimum rating for commercial corridor transit, and her crew numbers 11, counting me. What she carries instead is the most complete deep listening array Earth has ever fitted into a vessel this small, and a charter authorizing her to operate as a first contact liaison under the Joint Emergency Communication Protocols, a set of agreements spanning 14 accords, 43 signatory species, and enough fine print to fill a cargo bay. I have read all of it. That is, more or less, my job. The flag that woke me read, Priority 1 Personnel Distress, Joint Emergency Band KETH-03, Composite Signal, Origin Unresolved. I sat with that for 3 seconds. Band KETH-03 had been listed as dormant on every monitoring chart I had ever seen. Earth's grid had been tickling it passively for 81 years under Article 2 of the Joint Deep Field Continuity Charter, and in 81 years it had returned nothing but background radiation and the occasional harmonic bleed from adjacent bands. A Priority 1 flag on KETH-03 was, by my calculation, about as likely as a Priority 1 flag from a filing cabinet. I pulled the raw signal. It took me 4 minutes to see what had happened, which is longer than it should have taken and shorter than most people would have managed at 3:41. 2 signals had intersected in transit, not a planned composite, not a relay amplification, but a raw collision. The first was a Solvani Emergency Coordination Directorate test burst, a live-fire drill transmission on Solvani internal band Orvith 6, sealed, addressed to no external recipient, fired as part of their annual readiness exercise. The second was the carrier wave from Earth's unmanned relay node Echo 7, an 80-year-old box of electronics anchored at the edge of the Solvani corridor under that same Article 2 continuity charter, doing what it had always done, transmitting a slow, quiet carrier wave into the dark on KETH-03, listening for a response that had never come. The drill burst, and the carrier wave had met at a transit node 7 light minutes from my position. The resulting composite signal read, on every Earth monitoring system, as 11 personnel broadcasting in life-critical distress on a joint emergency band. The grid had flagged it. The grid had woken me. The grid had already logged the Pale Accord as the nearest chartered vessel and calculated an intercept in 31 minutes. I filed the divert order and took the helm myself. I spent the transit time drafting the contact message. That is the part of this work that matters most and gets talked about least, not the response, but the words you use when you get there. You are talking to someone who, in this case, did not know you were listening. You have to be careful with that. You have to be precise about what you know and honest about why you are there, and you have to give them enough room to be confused without letting the confusion cost anyone anything. I opened on the Solvani standard hailing frequency, identified the Pale Accord and my charter authority, and said the following. I am responding to a Priority 1 distress flag logged by Earth's deep listening grid at 3:41 station time on Joint Emergency Band KETH-03. I want to be transparent. I believe this flag was generated by a signal collision rather than an active distress event. I would like to share my signal analysis with your nearest communications authority and confirm no personnel are at risk. Please advise. The response came in 11 minutes. This is Admiral Proctor Asif Kalwin Thress, Solvani Emergency Coordination Directorate, Drill Control. Your hail is on a sealed internal frequency. You should not be on this channel. Identify your authority and state your purpose immediately. I had expected something like that. I gave her my full charter authority, read her the Article 2 continuity provision covering Echo 7's operation, and attached the raw composite signal with my decomposition analysis. The 2 source waveforms, the transit node intersection point, the resulting false positive read on Earth's grid. There was a longer pause this time. I watched the timer, 40 seconds, 60. You are telling me, Admiral Thress said, that a relay node operating under an 80-year-old charter article, a relay node I was not aware existed, intercepted a transmission from our internal drill band. Not intercepted, I said. The relay was broadcasting its own carrier wave. Your drill burst intersected it in transit. The collision was random. Neither signal was aimed at the other. Another pause. I could hear, faintly, the sound of her pulling data on her end. The small procedural sounds of someone running numbers they did not expect to need. Your grid read this as 11 personnel in distress. Yes. There are no personnel in distress. This was a readiness drill. All stations are nominal. I understand that now. I flagged the likely explanation before I diverted, but my charter requires me to respond to any unresolved Priority 1 flag until the origin is confirmed and the flag is cleared. That's why I'm here. The pause this time was different, not administrative, not the sound of data being pulled, something quieter. How long did it take, she said, from the flag to your divert order? The grid flagged at 3:41. I reviewed the raw signal. Divert order filed at 3:45. 4 minutes. Yes. And you are, what is the Pale Accord? A warship? No, signals liaison vessel. 11 crew, no armament. I heard something that might have been a short exhale. We fired that drill burst on a sealed band. It was addressed to no one. There was no intended recipient outside our own directorate. You are telling me Earth has a relay node in this corridor that has been broadcasting a carrier wave on a joint emergency band for 80 years, and that your grid flagged a collision with our internal transmission as a Priority 1 distress event, and that 4 minutes later you had a vessel underway. That's correct. Another silence. I waited. I have learned in this work that the silence after that kind of arithmetic is one you do not fill. You let them do the calculation themselves. You let them reach the edge of what they knew about their own corridor and look over it at the relay node they had never known was there. The carrier wave that had been traveling past their stations for 80 years. The grid that had been watching the band they thought was sealed. The relay node, Admiral Thress said. Echo 7, what is its current operational status? Fully functional. Routine carrier wave broadcast. All telemetry nominal. And it has been there since. 81 years, 4 months, by the installation log. I heard the data pull sounds again, longer this time. I am going to need the charter reference for that installation, she said. Article 2 of the Joint Deep Field Continuity Charter. I am going to need the full provision text and the signatory list. I can transmit that now. Please do. I sent it. We held the channel open while she read. I drank half a cup of cold coffee and watched the signal strength readout and did not say anything. Solvani is listed as an observer signatory, she said eventually. We hold observer status under this charter. Yes, observer signatories receive the carrier wave notification register annually. It would have been filed to your directorate archives. The pause was very short this time. I am going to look for that filing. I expect you'll find it. I did not say it unkindly. She was a precise person. I could hear it in the way she had framed every question, and precise people do not enjoy discovering that a piece of information existed in their own archives and went unretrieved. I did not need to underscore it. She had already done that arithmetic. For the record, Admiral Thress said, this incident will be logged on our side as a signal interference event during a scheduled readiness drill. No distress event occurred. I will file a notation that the interference source has been identified and coordinated with the relevant Earth Liaison Authority. That matches my own incident report. I'll cross-reference your filing number when you have one. One more question. Go ahead. If this had been a real distress event, if those 11 personnel had been real and in real distress, 4 minutes to the divert order, I said. 31 minutes to intercept. The Pale Accord carries a full emergency medical suite and a 4-person response team. The silence after that one was the longest of the conversation. "Thank you, Commander," Admiral Thress said at last. Her tone was still precise, still procedural, but there was something else in it, not warmth, not quite, but a careful steadiness, the tone of someone putting a new fact into the correct drawer and making sure the drawer closes properly. "I will have that charter article flagged in our Directorate systems before end of watch." "Appreciated. If you need anything further from my end, I'll be in range for another 6 hours." "Understood." Thress out. I closed the channel and sat for a moment in the quiet of the signals deck. Through the forward glass, the corridor looked the same as it always did: dark transit lanes, the slow amber pulse of a navigational beacon 3,000 kilometers off the port bow, the faint structural lights of a Solvani relay tower that had not known, until tonight, that it was sharing a corridor with an Earth monitoring asset 80 years its senior. I filed my incident report. Signal collision, origin identified, no personnel at risk, flag cleared, charter cross-reference pending Admiral Thress's filing number. In the notes field I added one line: Echo 7 operational, carrier wave broadcasting normally, no action required. Then I finished my coffee and held the band open for the rest of my watch, the way I always do, the way we always have. 81 years of carrier wave into the dark, and nobody had ever asked us why we kept it running. The answer is the same as it has always been: because somebody might need it, because the band might carry something, because the silence is not the same as empty. Tonight it carried a drill burst and a false positive and a 40-minute conversation with a Solvani admiral who is, as of this writing, looking for a charter filing in her own archive. But it carried something. That is the point of staying on the line.